It's time for Twig This Week in Google. Gina and Jeff are here. Iyaz Akhtar joins us, and we will give you the latest on Facebook's awesome announcement, plus all the Google news. It's next on This Week in Google.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT. Bandwidth for This Week in Google is provided by Cachefly. CACHEFLY.com. This is Twig, This Week in Google, episode 102, recorded July 6th, 2011. Relatively awesome. This Week in Google is brought to you by Squarespace.com, the fast and easy way to create a high-quality website or blog. For a free trial and 10% off your new account for 6 months, go to Squarespace.com and use the offer code TWIG7. And by Netflix. Watch thousands of TV episodes and movies on your Mac, PC, iPad, iPhone, or TV instantly. All streamed directly to you, saving you time, money, and hassle. For your free 30-day trial, go to netflix.com/twit. It's time for Twig This Week in the Google, and here in the Googleplex. Joining us now, actually in the old cottage, for one of the last This Weeks in Google from the old cottage, the lovely and talented Gina Trapani. In fact, when she comes back, she's going on a vacation to China. We will be in a new facility, so this is her last broadcast from the cottage.
I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to be probably asleep while the show is going on in China, but I will be missing you guys.
Oh, we'll miss you. But we've been talking before the show about your trip, and it's just gonna. I think it's just wonderful.
I'm very excited. I will come back.
How many days? 2 weeks?
Like 10 days.
Gosh, that's
10 or 11 days. Yeah, you gotta kind of make it worth the flight, you know.
It's a long flight, and and there is a significant jet lag.
Oh yeah, I'm sure day one I'm gonna be an absolute hot mess, a wreck. I'm sure, but.
Yeah. Day one. It took me about 5 days to get.
Uh-oh.
Day one, yeah. Day one.
Ambien and red wine.
There he is, Mr. Jeff Jarvis. Ambien and red wine he prescribes.
Advice from the master.
Or just look at, you could just watch some awesome announcements and that'll put you to sleep.
Yeah.
you Jeff, are saying that sleeping on the plane is the key. I presume you're not recommending Ambien and wine all the trip.
Well, that would help too. It would make the scenery better. But yeah, no, Ambien and red wine on the plane, which I know is wrong. You shouldn't mix the two and all that. I have a little red wine. I have an Ambien. I'm not.
No, I think that's my wife's strategy, as a matter of fact.
I'm Jeff Jarvis. TV
what the hell? Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Oh, we have to show that.
Who is this? Who is this?
Hi, I'm Jeff Jarvis, TV critic for People magazine. Like many of you, I was disappointed. No, make that fed up. No, on third thought, make that enraged with moonlighting. Reruns, nothing but reruns. I mean, without moonlighting, what was there to do on Tuesday nights? Watch the Home Shopping Network? Start a family? Read? Well, the crisis is over. Moonlighting's back. Last week, at long last, they gave us a fresh episode. And tonight, they're giving us one that's even fresher. But there's a catch, a hitch, a cruel trick. If you didn't watch last week's show, and you probably didn't bother because you figured it's just another rerun, then you won't know what the hell's happening in tonight's show. But fear not, don't sweat. I have right here a tape of last week's episode, and I'll show you all the good parts. Won't take long. It all started when David
okay, we'll skip that part. We don't really need the recap.
Yeah,
but
by
the way, a great show.
I ran out of Grecian formula about a decade ago.
You know, between this and page one, I didn't realize that I was, co-hosting with an absolute movie star, TV star.
I think I'm just
beginning and end of my acting career.
I'm going to use this from now on when you're not here or you're on phone. We'll just put that up. Yeah, it kind of looks like
So
you.
great.
No, that's great. That really is fun. But I think people don't know about your earlier career as a television critic.
I was the TV critic at People, and I complained in my column about how moonlighting. The kids won't know who Sybil Shepherd is, but Bruce Willis was off the air all the time because they were being prima donnas.
God, I loved that show.
And the producer called me up and said, "Thanks for the Valentine. Why don't you come out and introduce the?"
It was actually quite clever.
It was a lot of fun. And at the very end of that clip, there's a little gag. But yeah, I got to go out for the day. And
I thought we all had the little gag right there. No, just kidding. I'm going to go back and we're going to see the little gag because I don't want to miss the little gag. Come on. it's YouTube, you know. So did you post this? You must have posted
No,
this.
somebody else did. In fact, I actually bought. Here's the sad part. Here's the sad egotistical part. I got excited when Moonlighting went on to DVD. I bought it at Amazon. I wanted to see my episode.
Oh, on DVD.
I was off. I think it's because they lost track of me and they couldn't get me to sign away the DVD rights. DVDs being a thing.
Whatever happened to Jeff Jarvis?
Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of sad.
So it was very sad. So I don't know who found this where, but some very nice soul put it up on YouTube, and people have been laughing at me all day, which is fine.
I think it's great. Let's watch some more of Jeff Jarvis introducing Moonlighting.
David decided to do just that and rushed to Maddie's house at 4 in the morning to share his startling realization with her.
It's after this?
It's after this.
Now listen.
It's all right. I think it's kind of fun to... Oh, my God, that's...
Mark Herman.
That's what some would say. That's when the show jumped the shark. It jumped Mark Harmon.
It jumped the shark when they hooked up.
Hi.
The sexual tension is what made that show.
Yeah.
Are Bruce and what's her name gonna hook up? Sybil.
I got to get these DVDs.
Oh, have you not seen Moonlighting?
It's a great show.
I mean,
Which
I've
reminds me,
heard of it.
let me make it absolutely clear that my appearance here on Moonlighting will in no way compromise my integrity as a television critic. Sure, it's just a thank you note.
Good on you. Good on you. And you know, as long as you disclose it, it's okay, Jeff.
Jeff, before the internet, you were actually difficult to find? Is that what the deal was?
I find that hard to believe in any case. Hey, one more person to introduce who is not a regular on this show, but is a regular on the network. Iyaz Akhtar is also in studio with us. He is, of course, one of the regular hosts on Tech News Today every weekday afternoon on TWiT Live. And great to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm thinking about Jeff's clip there. Like, there's no way to catch up on Moonlighting. Like, now you just check Twitter. Check Google Plus. It's kind of interesting to see that. Like, how would you know?
As somebody said in Google Plus, the amazing thing was this recalls an era where if you missed an episode of something, you were screwed.
Right.
It was over.
That's entirely mind-bending.
And no Hulu, no
and
on
you would have to use a VCR to go back and watch
if you programmed it right.
By the way, you know, I'm just curious if the chat room wants to make a guess what year that was. Any guesses on what year that was? Now, don't tell me if you know, but I'm just curious because I bet you they're going to guess much earlier than it was. No, they're pretty good.
Whoa.
It was 1987. I just thought people would have thought, gosh, that must have been a long time ago. And in fact, it wasn't. I mean, really wasn't that all that long ago. You just look like it was all that. No, I mean by the VCR, yes, we all looked like porn stars in the late 80s. That was, if I had video of me, it would.
Very much chat room.
Sometimes I think it feels
I like Google Plus better than you chat room.
It feels like VCRs and all of that seems like so long ago. And it really, 1987 was only, what, 23 years ago? It's not that long ago.
24 years ago.
Yeah.
Of your generation.
Yeah. That's because I remember it. I loved watching that show. All right, so here we are, convened about 2 hours after Mark Zuckerberg made his awesome announcement. It was pretty obvious when Mark said in Seattle, at the Seattle Facebook office, the day after Google Plus came out, we got something awesome to announce next week. That this was kind of something that they felt they needed to do in response to Google Plus. You think, Iyaz?
Well, I mean, it seems like Facebook was not in the press as much. Google Plus was getting all of our love. The tech people, we love that stuff. It's like, oh, it's brand new and it's quiet. It's not like the same noise that's on Facebook or Twitter right now. And they said something awesome. Something awesome. I don't know who it's awesome for. If you guys didn't catch the news, it was just, I believe it's Skype video integration into Facebook. It's
we'll talk about it in a little bit. But I think that it not only was it not awesome, it wasn't even in any way a direct response to anything that Google's doing, because Google Talk, AIM, Yahoo, and MSN Messenger have all had video messaging. I mean, that's nothing.
That's the point you made during the live presentation, Leo, that it was just catch-up.
It's not even catch-up with Google Plus. It's catch-up with Google Talk.
Yeah. I think it's a big mistake to have oversold it.
They should not have said awesome.
Next time.
Yeah. Gina, you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I do agree. It didn't feel very innovative. Although, I mean, you know, Hangouts got such great press, and I think the reason why it did is because it's something cool. It's group video chat that's not enterprise that anybody can use. It's got neat kind of design decisions around it, around moderators and that kind of thing. The one-to-one video chat just seems like, oh yeah, every major IM service has had this for a while. I'm saying this though, I haven't tried Facebook video chat yet though. So
well, we can do it right now if anybody wants to.
I'm not on it yet.
I'm on it, and we tried it right after the broadcast. Here's the thing that is true. For the audience that Google Plus is aimed at, this room and everybody listening, this is like, oh yeah, sure. But for the audience that loves Facebook, I'm not convinced that this isn't something pretty important. I think
it's a good addition to Facebook, no question about that. It's just not awesome.
Well, it's so much easier than even using regular Skype. So if you have Facebook, you already know about the chat. The chat's down here in the lower right-hand corner. You click on it, and a lot of people will notice immediately there's some redesign here, and there's even more going to come along with the addition of groups in here. I don't have that yet. And then, look, Eileen's calling me. Well, let me just answer that call from Eileen, our producer. She picked right up on my my request. Now, this is the beauty of it. It doesn't feel like Skype. There I am. There you are, Gina. And in a moment, we'll see Eileen. In fact, it doesn't even really have much control in it. There's a change of camera and audio there. Eileen, you don't have a camera, apparently.
No.
You're also just in the other room.
No, I see myself.
Oh, you're also listening to TWiT Live.
Yeah.
All right. So this is a pretty lousy demonstration of how great this is.
Is that window movable, or is that's blocking your Facebook experience?
It's a normal. Now this is on the Mac. If you want to go full screen, it uses not a special full screen command as Skype does, but it uses the regular controls for the window. The picture quality is excellent, and look at no controls, no branding, and I think this is part of what is in fact innovative about this is that it's. I'm going to hang up on you, Eileen.
Bye.
It works better than that. I'll call somebody else.
What do you have to have installed to get this to work? Do you have to have the Skype client installed?
No.
Just
so what happens is you go to chat, and it looks exactly like this, and you say, "Oh, let me chat with somebody," and you look, and there's a little camera. Start a video call. The first time you press it, it says we're going to need to install some software. It runs a little bit of Java. It's in Java, by the way. Really? Even on the PC will download a Java loader, an exe loader. On the Mac, it's just a jar file, and it installs fairly quickly. It's a small little bit of Java, and then that's it. Now it's good to go. So I think it's actually appealing to the people it's aimed at, who are prime Facebook users. In other words, your family that's not the geek. It's suddenly for them, it's going to feel pretty innovative, I think. They're not aware of Google Plus. They're not on Google Plus.
The other thing is you don't have to find anybody else's contact information. What's your Skype handle? You just have the ability to go, here's my Facebook list, and I'm just going to be able to do a video chat with them instead of going through Skype's kind of not so great search. I don't know if you guys ever tried that, but like when you try to find somebody with a very common name, it's very difficult to find them. And if you go through Facebook and you have all these ways to actually confirm who they are, it's a lot simpler.
So it may not be awesome. And
well,
certainly
it's awesome to a community, to a community. And I mean, I think now I see. I mean, when I think about my in-laws on both sides of my family, just absolutely live on Facebook, right?
Exactly.
And if I said getting a Skype call arranged to see the kids is like a little bit of a nightmare. You know, install this, okay, sign up for an account, what's your Skype name, all that. This is just going to be instant. So I think awesome is relative. Inside the Facebook community, this is a big deal, and I think it's great.
I think they did make a mistake in adding. They announced three things: the group chats, which is even more ho hum. These are things any chat client has had all along. Group chats, video chat. What was the third thing?
Just design.
Redesign so that you could see the group chats. They probably should have left the group chats off. Just done the Skype thing. They did have Tony Coates, who was the new CEO of Skype, come on stage. I think the thing that's most interesting to me as somebody covering tech is the fact that Skype is about to be owned by Microsoft. And this puts Facebook squarely in the Microsoft corner. If Microsoft is a minority shareholder, Bing already integrates Facebook, and now a Microsoft product, Skype, is going to be powering video chat in Facebook. It is an interesting. Why do you think that Facebook is so willing to get in bed with Microsoft, of all people?
I mean, Microsoft can scale, right? They've been able to handle all this kind of web stuff before, and they have decent management, even though a lot of people call for Ballmer's resignation every 2 minutes. So, I mean, you have a very young company like Facebook that might not know the ropes. It might make sense to partner with somebody as large as Microsoft who could help them and show them, okay, look, this is the way this could go, and we have a lot of money. We know what we're doing, so maybe you want to listen to us.
Well, and it's a good thing for Skype, because Skype gains 750 million potential new customers. They mentioned that although there's no financial relationship between Facebook and Skype, at least that's the implication. I'm not convinced that's the case, but that's kind of what Mark said without saying it. Skype is going to have the ability to upsell Facebook users to premium Skype services. It's not clear how that's going to happen. But that's huge for Skype. The ability to sell, say, things like Skype Out or free calling, that kind of thing, is huge for Skype. So I think it's a big win for Microsoft and a big win for Skype. It's a good thing. That's something that, as soon as I heard about the Skype deal with Microsoft, I thought, oh, this is going to happen. And obviously this was something in the works, and this is nothing you could have pulled out of your butt in 5 days.
No, not at all.
Do you think they rushed the announcement, or is this something they kind of plan to do anyway?
I think there are lots of people in the community in Silicon Valley who talk and know what the other guy is doing, and I think this was all kind of happening at the same time. And I think that Google just pulled the trigger sooner, and it was close.
Right.
They knew, yeah. This isn't the first time that Facebook has had any sort of partnership with Microsoft, right? Didn't Facebook partner with them with Docs, the Docs.com launch?
Oh, that's right. I forgot Docs.com. That's
advertising
another one
too.
Yep.
And there's advertising, and isn't there is
Facebook's
Facebook
in Bing.
If
you go to Bing, you'll get Facebook search results in there, the social search.
Yeah, so I mean, it makes sense that Facebook Microsoft partnerships, I think, make a lot of sense, especially if Facebook feels threatened by Google. I mean,
is it the axis of not do evil?
Enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah, that's what it really is, isn't it? Because Facebook's clearly terrified of Google. Microsoft's terrified of Google, so they should join forces and fight Google. Yes?
Yeah, I think that there were two interesting things to me in this. The first was that Zuckerberg, I think, was trying to position himself as saying, we have the social graph, you don't, and we can do just all kinds of things on top of this. And others can try to catch up to get the social stuff, but they don't have it. We do. The second thing that's interesting is that he gave a real shout out to developers and said we're far better off developing with outsiders than our own, unlike some other companies. Wink, wink, wink. Which I think includes most certainly Twitter, and in part Google as well. We don't have an API yet for Plus. We'll see where that goes.
Yeah, but it's pretty obvious we will for Plus.
Yeah, I think we will.
And pretty obvious we won't for anything Facebook does, right?
I know that's, well, yes, but we have a platform, and you can build Zynga on top of Facebook, and you can build it up on top of the social graph that they have.
It's a platform, not an API. I guess that's a...
Okay, fine.
That's a distinction.
Sorry, yes. So sorry.
Is that? I mean, is that a fair distinction to make, Gina? A platform.
Yes.
A platform does not an API.
Yes.
Or vice versa.
Right. I mean, the distinction is you log into Facebook to play Facebook, to use Facebook apps. Well, that's not necessarily.
Yeah, but you do. No, you're right. That's the point.
Really
if it's a platform, you're within the platform. If it's an API, you can stand out here and say, "Give me some stuff, and I'll integrate it in." So that's a big difference.
It is a big difference. I misspoke, but I still think that's where he's trying to position himself. Is there.
Oh, yeah, and I have to say, when Mark implies we have the social graph and Google doesn't, I'm not sure I buy into that. I mean, I think Google has a pretty they've got a 1 billion user base.
Well, I've been trying to think about this.
There isn't one winner to get the social graph. I mean, yes, Facebook is absolutely dominating, and yes, Facebook has been thinking about the problems around social for a lot longer than Google has, seriously. But what does Gmail have? 200 million users? Yeah. I mean, that doesn't come close to the 750 million, but it's not one winner takes all. It just isn't. I mean, if you look at the enthusiasm around Google Plus within our community, and I say within our community because it is very much just our community right now. There's room for lots of different networks, I think.
I tried to write this up, and I accidentally erased the Google Plus post, but just as well because I hadn't thought it through yet.
Do not write in Google Plus, okay?
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's my fault. It was stupidity. But here's what I'm noodling about is identity. I said on a post last week after our show that I thought that Facebook was about relationships, Twitter was about broadcasting, Tumblr is about quoting, and Google Plus is about sharing. Now, that's that's absolutely wrong because each one is about all those things. But in terms of emphasis, that's where I started. Then I thought about it more, and I think there's something about identity going on here. That Facebook, on the one hand, has the best position of all when it comes to identity because they do have real relationships, more real identity. It's harder to come up with a fake identity there. The bloodstream tends to reject it more. And so that, in that sense, I think would put Facebook ahead. The irony for Facebook, as we've discussed in the show long ago, is the problem of a public and the public, is that I don't necessarily want to use my Facebook established identity in the whole world, which is where it could be most valuable. And Google comes along now and says, well, no, we've got a new identity, but I can still make up. I can become Elliot Spitzer in a minute. You know, I can do whatever I want on Google+.
Right.
Elliot Spitzer now.
But yeah, I think that there's while it's not as strong as Facebook, there's a pretty good link between identity and reality on Facebook. I mean, on Google+, isn't there?
Yeah, and I think it'll get even better, which goes to your old point, Leo, which is the more that Google ties your profile page to search,
right,
the more you have invested in it, the more it becomes, as you put it, the canonical version of you. And they've just added this other thing, which we mentioned in a paragraph, I mean, in a parenthesis last weekend, that they've now starting to promote authors. So I'm part of the beta for that.
Oh,
yeah,
what's that?
Me too. It's really cool. If you Google a blog post that I've written or Jeff's written, in the search results, you'll see our Google profile picture as the author next to the search result.
Oh, yeah, we have that too. In fact,
Yeah,
you have to do a rel link in there.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I'm going to turn that on as well. Yeah, it's very simple. They sent me the information. Google sent me the information on
Does
that.
Google actually go ahead and try to find your verified sites and then pull that content? Because I know when I was writing on blogs, I would see my content posted on other sites that I did not authorize. Or is Google actually filtering all that stuff out, or is your?
They're trying to go to the sites that put in the rel author.
Okay.
You put the rel equals author attribute on the link to your canonical page, and then like on your Google profile you say this site is by me and this site is about me, and so you kind of tell Google these sites, I own these sites and these sites are about me, so it knows those sites. So your image actually wouldn't show up on a site that's just sucked your content.
Oh, that sounds.
There's
really
a blog
helpful.
post here at Yoast, yoast.com. Joost van de Valk wrote this, and it explains exactly how to do it. In fact, Google sent me to this blog post to do it. So it says how to add rel-author and so forth. This is for WordPress specifically, but you can, if you know what you're doing, you can easily extrapolate this to any site.
And now Google's also making all profiles public as of the end of the month, as of July 31st. Your profile. So if your profile is private, they'll just shut it down.
What's the point of a private profile anyway?
Well, right. I mean, that's a good question. And that's what they've kind of come to, is that the purpose of the profile is for you to publicly identify yourself. So if you don't want to publicly identify yourself, then don't have a profile, which was pretty strong language. I thought it was really interesting. Google did a lot of tweaking over the weekend to privacy controls in the stream on Google+, which, giving people the ability to create these private spaces, but then they also sort of came out with this announcement that Google profiles were just going to be public and that's it. So it's really interesting stuff going on both sides. Giving you the ability to
You
private.
wrote a great post about that, Gina. You wrote a great post about that. You and I disagree in very minute shades of gray here.
Yeah.
But I think that people are trying to figure this out in new ways. I think I won't make your point for you, but your point that there are now better controls that you can say to someone, this is what I'm sharing with this group, and then if I try to share it in turn, I'm prevented, or I'm reminded that you just did it in groups, I'm prevented from sharing it publicly. And I'm fine with that, and I get that. My fear about that is what I've seen happen many times already, is people are just kind of defaulting to a group, and then I can share it less. And there's no good reason. Vic Condrota himself shared a video of him in a Mercedes ad about how the car saved him from an accident. It was a public video. He sent it to one group. I then couldn't share it with the world who can see the video.
But that's because he particularly chose a setting that says not shareable, or?
No, he chose to send it to a limited group.
Because of the limited group that he sent it to.
And then I couldn't share it with the whole public.
Oh, that's interesting.
So what's happening is people are just sharing it with one group, and now it's shutting me down from being able to share more broadly the way I can.
I thought that was a setting, so that's not a setting. That's by default.
I could be wrong. Gina, what do you?
Yeah, so it used to be like when it first launched, if you shared with a circle, someone in that circle could then reshare
publicly, right?
So they've disabled that now. So if I share to a circle, someone in my circle can share to other circles with a little warning to be thoughtful, because the original author shared.
I like that warning. Yeah, I thought that was
the
good.
warning
I'm very cool with.
And that made sense. That's kind of, and this is what I've been pushing for after I talked about this last week after seeing Tim O'Reilly talk about it. Let's use mores. Let's use social pressure. Let's use peer pressure. Let's not use settings to do this. So remind people that, you may not want to share this publicly because it wasn't originally shared publicly, but not stop them from doing it.
And I really like Jeff's point, which is that in real life, if you tell someone something, they can share it publicly on their own, and you have no control. You might not even know. And so, Jeff, I think your argument was saying, why would we disable this ability to share publicly in software if this is something that can happen in real life? Why don't we just create the social, the context in which people are more thoughtful?
You can't legislate secrets.
Right, you can't. But at the same time, you think about any good Twitter client doesn't let you retweet a direct message. Right?
Well, that's probably why Representative Weiner
but you can always get around that stuff. If somebody's a real jerk and they want to be able to access your DM and repost it, or they want to share something, you can just do a screenshot and put that up. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons.
I think the key here is, to me, is that we're putting, and you were headed toward this, Leo, we're putting too much on the technology, which also means we know what's going to happen here. Somehow something that somebody shared that they didn't want shared gets shared beyond where they thought. And who are they going to blame? The technology, not the person.
Yes.
And so I think that Google is setting this up in a way that it's trying to give a false sense of security that the technology will solve this.
Well, in their defense, they have no choice. After the Buzz fiasco and the FTC oversight that they now are subject to, they don't have a choice. They have to do this. But it's unfortunate that this is culturally the way we're responding.
I think so. And I think that the two things that happen. One is that I think on Facebook, and I think I said this last week, on Facebook now, it's gotten to the point where if someone asks to be my friend, and my account's broken, so I actually can't, folks, but fine. And if I want to go then see them and see who they are, well, they've locked down They've locked down their account so much I have no idea who they are. Some friend you are. And so this overreaction has turned a sharing service into a privacy service, which is kind of insane. What I do love is the reminders. You're right. That's about mores. That's about norms. That says, I'm going to inform you, this is how Gina shared this. Now, if you want to screw Gina, if you think you've got a good reason to, that's up to you and Gina.
Right.
And it's between you and Gina.
Between you and Gina.
But I can understand why Google feels they have to. Now, somebody in the chat room saying, well, wait a minute, didn't you guys inveigh against Facebook for having places check-ins be public? But that's very different. Although maybe not. I don't know. What would you say, Jeff? Is that different to say, I know where Iyaz is and I'm going to check him in here publicly?
I think that is because, I mean, granted, I could do that anyway. I could just type, hey, I see Iyaz.
Absolutely.
Right? But to systematize that kind of sharing, I think, was a problem for Facebook. But what I think what they all need to do is just to make sure you have informed action.
It's funny because we are now a little bit in Zuck's corner, who has said all along, it's good for you. Let it all hang out. Sharing is good. And maybe he wasn't so far off. I don't know. But
I think so, too. Well, I think the other thing is that Zuck contends that we have one identity, and I agree with him on this, that though there are shades, when we get in trouble, if we think the technology can prevent our beer picture from being seen by the wrong person,
we're
the problem with that is we're putting too much reliance on the technology, A. B, the other problem is the person who disapproves of me drinking a beer, they got problems.
Right.
We got to deal with that.
Right.
So what I think is Google is doing here is putting this false expectation that you can silo your whole life. You can't.
Right. Actually, that was Mark Zuckerberg's kind of roundabout response to Ben Parr of Mashable, and Ben said, well, what do you think of Google+? He first said a lot of companies are going to do something like this, but Facebook has the social graph. This was that social graph argument.
Yep.
And we don't have to worry about competitors. We just have to keep innovating. But I don't know if it was in response to this question, but he did talk a lot about that whole issue of, Facebook groups versus Google circles and the non-granular kind of sharing that's on Facebook compared to the inherently granular sharing.
Do you guys use Facebook groups?
Well, I've set them up You see, he pointed out that 50% of everybody's actively using Facebook groups. I don't know what that means. I set up groups and I haven't used them since.
I haven't used them at all. Gina, do you use them?
I don't, but I really don't. I just don't use Facebook that much at all. I really just do it to check in with like my kind of extended family who uses it. I just never found my community there, honestly.
Right. Well, I cut you off, as is my habit, Gina. Do you feel that Google's in the right spot now with their current settings on sharing?
I do. I think they're in a really good space right now with the stream. I think that was the right decision to make, the disabling sharing to public. Although now you've sort of convinced me that if you added public to the list of places to share a limited post with, that it would just pop up another reminder and say, are you sure that you want to do this? You know, because you can forward an email to anyone you want. So, you know, there's arguments to be made. You can't retweet DMs, right? But you can forward email anywhere, or you can just talk to someone on the street, just like you said.
You know, what's interesting
Here's another way
about
to post the question. Do you think that Google Plus is essentially a sharing service or a communication service?
Oh, that's good. I'm still figuring that out. I think it's...
What's the distinction?
That's interesting.
I think that a sharing service means that you expect to share with people, and how many and in what circumstances are things you have to work out, and there are systems to help you with that, whereas a communication service is email.
I think it's
communication
both.
service
Right.
says...
I think it's both, because I've used it both ways. I have, by the way, with very little response, but I have used it to in effect, direct message, to set up a one-to-one, which you can do just by saying, okay, Iyaz, I'm going to add you to this, and I'm going to ask you a question. And I've done that a couple of times. And in every case, I did one to Veronica Belmont, which I then cut and pasted into email because I never heard from her. And and I did one, I think, to our team, to the TWiT company circle, and got one or two responses, but did not stimulate conversation.
The problem with the Google Plus is that it's almost like an unfiltered feed. Even though you have all these circles, you can, like that message you sent out.
There's no separate channel for it.
It got lost unless you make a specific circle for your business.
So the
or
answer
like
is it's a sharing service. It has communication features, but you're
it's
right.
Very
it's
rough
a sharing
and
service.
that's why they have Gmail built in. So you can always go there for that direct thing. And that's the thing with Google that I've noticed for the longest time. Tons of disparate pieces that have never been put together. And Gmail is with this added bar on the top. It says, look, this is the one place for you to go. When you want to share, go to Plus. When you want to talk to somebody directly, we have Gmail. Even though that chat's in Gmail and it's in Plus, so there's some elements that are crossover. But I think Google Plus is very different than using something like an email service. I mean, Facebook tried to do email, and that doesn't really work. They have messages, but they have their own email address too that nobody seems to use.
I love it.
I think that's a really important point that you make. That you there's no guarantee the person you're sending to is going to look at just that feed.
Right.
Whereas if you DM me or if you email me,
it's in a
I might not see it, but the expectation is very different. I think it's a really good point.
But there's an argument that Hangouts is definitely about communication, or just about more about shared experience than communication. And I think Google Plus can be used just for communication. Like, I did a post that was, I think, to all my circles, which I'm following quite a few people, hundreds of people, and said, Huddle is totally broken for me. Bunch of strangers starting huddles with me, blowing up my phone. I don't know who's who or what's what. And then privately, and the Google team has been doing a great job of this. Privately, a Google team member, sent a message shared with me and Leo, actually. Right. And I noticed, I don't know, Leo, if you responded.
I did. I didn't see your response. Did you respond?
I did.
It took me 12 hours, but I finally responded.
Yeah, he said, can you tell me more about your experience with Huddle? Like, how can we make it better? And it's interesting because I kept trying to find that message again. Like, oh, did Leo get back? Was there a conversation ensue? But it was hard to find. I mean, it's so hard to find stuff. It's amazing. Yes. There's no good post search. I was like, I want to see things that I've commented on. And anyway, it's early still.
So Gina, what was amazing when you did that original post, I guess one of those posts, and you asked for help, Vic came in and the timestamp is there in 2 minutes.
Yeah. Yes, and said we're working on it.
Don't count on that staying that way. I mean, come on.
We won't.
Well, right.
Well, that's pretty
but he said we're working on it, and then he called out the Google developer. Saying, hey, and then the Google developer who was working on it presumably came and said, oh yes, we're working on that. We have a change coming soon. So the customer service has been great. Although I did pose a question to everybody in my Google company circle, asking them about the percentage of women field testing the service, and I got crickets. So there isn't instant response on everything.
So it's like a geek conference, yeah.
I found let's see if I can find it. I found my response to the question, but I can't find the original question. Oh, wait a minute. I know why this is, because I responded in a separate post.
Is there actually a search feature built into this? I'm
No.
starting to look around. I'm like, wait, there isn't a search.
Okay, that's not quite
Search
true,
for
because you can
people.
use generalized Google search if you do site:+.google.com
it's
and then the
public.
search, but that's a little hard to do.
Okay,
If it's
that's a little
public.
off. I mean, Google
All right,
Reader when
so
it
let's
logs
start a
in.
list of the things that we want here.
Search.
Search is number one.
God,
Number
it's such
two
a
Search
long
in
is
Google.
list.
They might be good at that.
Search and hashtags, which is a specialized
Hashtags.
form of search where you click the hashtag and that does a search for that term.
Right.
I
save
also want,
search.
going to what Gina just said, why didn't they put the star in here? The star is all over Google.
Oh, favorite, yeah.
Why can't I
Well,
favorite
plus
things?
one.
Plus one is
one.
kind of, but plus one
kind
doesn't
of.
apparently do anything.
Well, and I can't go.
You can't go find your plus
one
ones.
is me approving. Star is me saving.
Yeah.
I have no way to save stuff.
But
here.
plus one doesn't do the same thing as a plus one on the open web does.
no.
It's true. You're right.
It doesn't
Like,
really do much except do a nice little graphic counter.
It's an
and-
animation.
Right, it's just an attaboy or an attagirl to the original
Yeah,
author. But you can't
that's
I
exactly.
imagine that they're going to start to surface
I think
that
we should
information.
not. I really think we should be careful about, and I see a lot of this criticizing Google Plus at this point, since it's obviously so early on. I mean, it's appropriate to say what do we want. I think that's fine. I think they're obviously very actively collecting that kind of information, so I'm not saying don't do that. But I don't think you can judge, and it's not even public. You cannot judge Google Plus based on what we're seeing today.
But some of these bloggers who are coming together, and I'll leave them unnamed, but a few of them come in, and the first thing is go in the deep end. Oh, I'm in, and you're not. It's a big deal. And then within 2 days,
I hate
they
it.
reject it all.
It's
I
all
hate it.
bad.
I
You
can't
killed
stand
Kenny.
it. I mean, it's just as bad. It's just as bad as me saying that Wave was going to change the world. I'll grant that, but
Me too.
it's too soon.
It's too soon, and we've now learned this lesson because I did the same thing with Buzz.
Yep.
So we've learned this lesson that you cannot jump on this bandwagon too quickly. You got to wait and see how it plays out. But I do note one thing, and I think it's impossible not to note this, that there is something about Google Plus to the people who are using it that it is making it incredibly sticky.
Yes.
They're using it and all complaining about it, long hours. The engagement is very high. I mean, many
it's
people have already
incredible.
got more people in their circles than they have on Buzz or even, or Facebook or anywhere else. I mean, the engagement's very high. So there is some nugget there.
Oh, there really is. And Leo, it's funny. I think this is where Google was hoisted on its own petard. I have people in one of the companies I deal with where they're all complaining and, oh, it's too much work to get in, or I don't have any friends there, so I don't see what it's about or anything, right? So you think, oh, well, how would you solve that? Oh, well, gee, let's go to your Gmail and give you
Oops.
some instant friends. It'd be the wrong thing to do, but that's the problem. There is we the geeks went to the effort to make enough friends to make it work for us, and then it became more addictive. If you're not like that, you come to it and it's crickets.
Yeah. I almost don't want to say this, but I think that I like it the way it is, and please don't invite anybody else or let anybody else in.
You like it closed off?
And I think that as soon as you open this up to the world at large, it will be no better than anything
Overwhelming.
else.
I
I think one of the reasons it's, I hate to say this, one of the reasons it's so engaging is because it's us talking to each other.
Well, that's why when
That's
I
the
went
Scoble
in.
position, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the
Well,
signal to noise
Good, I'll
ratio.
blame Scoble. Scoble said that?
No,
Okay, let's go with that.
Scoble's speaking out of both sides of his mouth. Scoble's the first person to say, I have 1,000 people. And then he says, I have too many people.
Yeah, I know. He always bugs me when he does that. He follows everybody, then complains about the noise. It's like, oh, Robert, come on. You're just shooting yourself in the foot.
So, Gina, how many followers do you have now?
Oh, stop it. Gina's the highest ranked woman on Google Plus.
At number 13, which is
And-
a
and
sad
only
statement about the number
10%
of women on Google Plus.
Only 10% of women of Google Plus users are female.
Well, according to socialstatistics.com, which apparently you have to put your Google Plus ID into to
Yeah, it's
have them
limited.
track your stats. So I can't tell if it's that more men are interested in their ranking or truly there are only 10% women. filled
We,
out.
I have to say, like to measure.
Well,
Size
men
matters.
like to measure. We do know this. So so I don't know what the answer is. And actually, that's what I keep asking Google about. And they are not sharing numbers about their user base. And I'm sure that's because we've criticized them on this show about not having real-world users actually try. And I made this point on Google Plus, so apologies to those of you who follow me, but it's like the best people to tell you whether or not your privacy controls are good are victims of harassment, stalking, rape, and those people are mostly women. women, not entirely, but mostly women. So it helps to, and women use social software actually a lot more than men, I think.
Well, on Facebook for sure. It's
on
more,
Facebook for
more than
sure,
half,
right? So I just think it's really important to have lots of women testers and people of color. And I mean,
do you think that there's a fault of Google that they didn't invite enough women?
I tend to not think that, because I think actually Google is in terms on the scale of Silicon Valley tech companies are actually pretty good.
But then also
very,
they
like,
only seeded a number, and then many of the other people on here were invited by others, right?
Right, of course.
Right, but you could have gone to Blog, Her, and Glam, for example.
Right.
And gotten 3,000-4,000 very active social.
Maybe they should have.
Women.
I actually think that they should have done that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Gina. It's absolutely right. And I found it the same thing, that I look at my list, and the testosterone is stifling.
It's a high level testosterone, for sure.
Now, on the other hand, one thing I'm very glad about, maybe it's just my weirdness because I do the German stuff, but I'm finding it to be incredibly international for me.
Oh, I love it too. In fact, if I look at incoming, which by the way, I really like incoming.
I like that too.
I guess that's the equivalent of the Twitter everything.
Well,
front
I think
page.
that's a little bit different, Leo. I think incoming is the people who are interested in you, whom you're not necessarily listening to, right?
So there's no analog to that.
No, there isn't. And what's great about it is that when I go to incoming, I find it really, really interesting. But, of course, noisier. Because there's people there who are speaking languages I don't know. They're interested in things I don't know. They're interested enough in what I have to say that we have a communication. I find new people there. I can read them, but I don't have to, noise up my own stream.
It's amazing when you get up early in the morning. It's not now so much, but when you get up early in the morning, more than 3/4 of this for me is Chinese.
You know what's weird about this? I mean, they
Or
have
Arabic,
they have an
or
API
Russian.
for Translate. You'd think they could talk to themselves and say, hey, what language would you like to notice your incoming stream in? So this is another bug that should be fixed. I mean, that seems like a pretty simple thing Google could do. Add in a Translate button. I would like to see that, because I'm looking through my incoming right now, see some Spanish, and I speak a little Spanish, so that helps. But you're right. In the morning, it's the other side of the world.
I love it, though. I think that's just really cool, and it does show that this has reached well beyond the U.S. and the technorati that normally are part of these kinds of tests.
Well, that's where they did get a diversity, which goes to Gina's point. They did seed it. I think it was Vic who said on our show last week that they tried to get heavy up in, I think, 23 languages, as I remember. Mm-hmm. And so they did seed it in other countries. They should have seeded it across other
genders. Yeah.
Other genders.
Other genders.
Well, there's male, female, and other.
There are other genders. I have three children, a boy and a girl, and
the other one.
And the other one.
I barely looked at incoming because my existing, the people that I do follow are so prolific that I can barely keep up with that. I mean, it's very active. Very active. There's a lot to see.
One of the people I follow is a local politician. I'm not going to give too much information, a female, who just recently complained to me in a limited post. I hope I'm not breaching confidence. I didn't say her name. But that she was getting a lot of pictures of genitalia tagged with her name.
Oh.
So there is some bad stuff going on.
Oh, crap already.
But that could happen on any service. I mean,
and I think that this is to Gina's point, that if you want to test your systems and how effective they are and how good the privacy is, you put more women on there and you'll see right away what's going on, unfortunately.
And I don't think we see that on Facebook. Do you think?
Well, I mean, I'm just thinking, like, right now you get a notification that says, do you approve this tagging?
Right.
And I know that you have the approval
But you're
option.
allowed to tag. This is the problem, and this is feedback that I do want to send to Google, and I will as soon as I get off the air. They need to. Right now, anybody, even if they're not in your circles, can tag you. Mm-hmm. So you should be able to say, I only want. Not only I want to approve tags, but I only want people to be able to tag me in my circles. There needs to be more granularity.
Yeah, that seems like it's just another step, because
they could do that.
In Facebook, they allowed you to do that, right? You can say only my friends can tag you. So
Facebook's got machine tagging now, so I don't know. I don't think. And that's another interesting thing. Although Google has the capability, I don't think they're doing automated tagging.
Oh.
Hopefully, they're auto-detecting genitalia.
It would be bad if your nose looked like a penis, though, and they were turning on the.
I'm
just saying.
These days, my nose looks more like a penis than my penis does.
I'm so sorry. Every time.
It always devolves to that.
You know, I'm sorry you have to work with us, Gina.
It's It cracks me up, actually. I love you guys.
We love
Only you guys.
We love you too. Yeah,
No one else,
nobody
chat room.
else do that.
Keep it clean.
Just me. I'm allowed.
He's in that private circle. It's okay.
Well, and that's a good point. I mean, that's another thing that happens in social networks. Stuff is tolerated. Your friends who you tolerate things like that.
Yeah, I've been thinking about creating a circle that for people who don't misinterpret my bad jokes.
Right.
That one, because otherwise, if I put it on Twitter, it's just a nightmare.
Oh, you're right. You're right. The irony circle.
Circle.
As opposed to the literal net circle.
Oh yeah, that was a whole other group.
Oh, Jesus.
We need circles within circles. We need the Venn diagrams aren't complicated enough.
Venn diagrams, super circles,
Yeah,
subcircles, semicircles,
supercircle.
ovals.
Well, one of my friends was suggesting that we should have self-tagging, self-circling, but that I don't get that.
Put
really,
yourself
but I
in a
guess
circle.
You could
What would you
nominate
call it?
yourself as ironic.
I do like it that you cannot tell what circle somebody has put you in. It's driving some people
Yes.
crazy.
Yes.
I'm really happy about that.
Yeah.
I use private lists on Twitter.
Oh, now I want to know.
I use private lists on Twitter a lot. Like I have this one private VIP Twitter list, which is like my first column in TweetDeck, which is like the people whose stuff I don't ever want to miss. And it would just hurt feelings if people found out
Right.
that I wasn't, they weren't in my VIP list. People get their feelings hurt if they find out that you're not following them to begin with.
Right.
It's speed dial.
But yeah,
Yeah. Are you on my speed dial?
Well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a Scoble moment now. So when they did the demo of the calling today on Facebook, I looked really quickly as you were showing it, Leo, and I think I saw my name on the list. I'm so happy.
aw.
So Scoble was there. You all caught Scobles. We have talked about Scobles. Great. The ultimate Scoble moment this week was Zuck SMSing Scoble.
Yeah. Because there was some question about whether there actually are apparently a few Mark Zuckerberg accounts on Google Plus, but there's one that has 44,000 followers, and there was some question: is that really Mark Zuckerberg? And Scoble was the one who confirmed it was. In fact, he was on TWiT on Sunday, and he showed me the text message. And then I did a bad thing. I scrolled back through it to see what else they talked about.
With just a flick of the thumb.
He kind of busted me on it too. But I figure with Robert, Robert's an example of this, which is that I know Robert in a way most people don't, because I've known him for many years before he was Robert Scoble, and he was a chat room mod for me in the '90s. So I have a very different relationship with him. I adore the guy. But
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah. But I know he annoys people, and I sometimes I play along with that. But I think a sweetheart, really a sweetheart.
Oh, he is he's a very generous and wonderful guy.
Very
And he
generous.
also puts up with people making fun of him because he also is kind of a character of himself. And he knows it.
He knows he's playing that character.
Yeah.
I think it hurts a little bit, though, I have to say.
Depends on how loving it is.
Sometimes I just want to give him a big hug,
Yeah.
and then I look at him and I say no. Let's take see like that. You know what I'm saying? Let's take a little bit of a break here. Iyaz Akhtar is here. He is, of course, one of our news team. I have officially named Tom Merritt news director, so that Iyaz makes you a news minion.
Minion, I like that.
Yeah,
Minion.
news
I'll put it on
minion.
my business cards.
Tech News Today. You'll catch him in just a little bit with the latest news. Actually, how are you going to do that?
I've been prepping this morning. And,
Oh, good. All right.
We're good.
Well, it's nice. I'm really glad to have you here. Thanks for joining us, coming downstairs and joining us.
Yeah, it was a long trip.
Also with us, Gina Trapani of smarterware.org. She's also at Gina Trapani on Twitter. And don't forget, of course, her great application. I would love to see a Google Plus version of this. That's kind of one of the things that's missing.
Yeah, we need a plug-in. Need the API.
ThinkUpApp.com. And last but not least, the man who wears his penis on his face. Well, it's better than your sleeve. Jeff Jarvis, BuzzMachine.com, former television critic. Actually, I'll tell you another story. I've been a follower and fan of Jeff Jarvis for many years, since you worked here in the city in San Francisco.
No, you're kidding.
Oh, no, absolutely. I followed you throughout your entire career this whole time. And so when we were talking about who should be on this show, you were number one on the list right after Gina Trapani, who's number 0. How's that for diplomacy?
Number 0 warms my heart.
I've been a big fan of Jeff's for a long time, and I can't remember how we first corresponded. Maybe it was through Jake.
Might have been.
Yeah.
Jake's been a huge fan for a long time.
Yeah.
Of yours.
So
Which is more
anyway,
by far.
yeah, it's funny. I think people don't remember that whole TV critic that episode. Let's take a break. We're going to come back with more on This Week in Google in just a little bit. Before we do, though, I'd like to talk to you about the secret behind exceptional websites, a great place for people. Frequently, this is one of the most frequent comments or questions I get, particularly on the radio show. What's a good web host? And I have to go through a long, elaborate explanation. And really, I should just say, look, you don't want to just get a web host. You want to get a web host and the best software possible, and you want to get them together, and that's squarespace.com. You know, if you're a WordPress blogger, as I am, you're updating. We just got a new update on WordPress. What is it, 3.2 now? You have to, every few weeks, update WordPress. Squarespace, they update it, but they do it for you. It's always kept secure. Version 6 has been in testing for some time, and I can tell you is very exciting. This is the best software, not just for a blog, but for any website. First of all, they kind of follow the Google Data Liberation Front model. You can get your data in and out. They have seamless importing from the movable type WordPress, TypePad, and Blogger APIs. They'll copy your posts, copy the images, make sure all the links work, all the SEO is preserved. But you can also export. It goes both ways, so you're never trapped. In fact, that's good because they have a try it free feature that gives you a. We did this. I wonder if this. I wonder if we on TWiT we. What was it? Was it BrianIsAUnicorn.com?
Oh, yeah. Some variation of that.
Yeah,
I mean,
let's
there's
just
a lot
see.
of those out
We
there.
actually created this, and I gave out the password. Oh, it looks like somebody's modified it again. But within seconds,
there it goes.
This website was crowdsourced with our with our people in the chat room, people watching the live stream, made this website on Squarespace. And that's kind of the beauty of this.
A fine use of technology.
Don't you think?
Tim Berners-Lee is very proud right now.
This is what the web was made for. So let me take you back to squarespace.com. Actually, where'd it go? Squarespace.com. If you click the green button, you could try it for free for 2 weeks. If you decide to buy, do use the offer code TWIG7, TWIG and the number 7, because that'll give you 10% off your new site for the first 6 months. So it's a really good deal and a good money saver. TWIG7, 10% off for the first 6 months of your account. Very affordable, too. Remember, you're getting hosting and the software, and the pricing starts as low as $10 a month if you buy for 2 years. The longer you subscribe, of course, the better the choice is. Lots of nice features, iPhone and iPad app that really make it great to post as well as moderate your blog. Even get your stats, some great stats on here. Photo galleries, forums, form building, and a whole lot more. Squarespace. Just give it a try, will you? Just press that green button, squarespace.com. And if you decide to buy, use the offer code TWIG7. Don't forget, 10% off for the first 6 months of your account. The secret behind exceptional websites, and BrianIsAUnicorn.squarespace.com if you'd like to see. They did that literally in about a minute. Actually, there was a little battle between we had different factions doing different things with this.
Yeah, the chat room is good for doing things like that during NSFW. If you watch that
they
show,
do that all the
they
time.
do that. There's like, I'd say 50 sites get made during the show.
Instant.
And
do they use Squarespace? I guess
they do use Squarespace,
yeah.
and there are some phenomenal sites. And a lot of Brian is a unicorn, oddly enough.
Well, he is.
Crowdsourcing. Love
Great
it.
article by Jim Fallows. First of all, as much as I love you, Jeff Jarvis, I love Jim Fallows. I think he's one of the most interesting guys writing. Very smart. Writes for The Atlantic these days. And he actually, I should say he blogs for The Atlantic.
But he's a journalist, man. He's the real deal.
He really is. His books are fantastic. So he brought up an interesting point on Tuesday. Google Plus versus Facebook, the trust factor. And this is something I've been talking about on this show and thinking about for some time. Why is it we sort of trust Google in a way that we sort of don't trust Facebook? He quotes Christopher Michael Luna, a divinity student at Harvard, who wrote an essay about the meaning of trust and connection in the social media age, in which he says, and it kind of echoes my own sentiments, so I'm going to run it by you guys. Quote, I trust Google in a way that surprises me. I trust them more than any other corporation I can think of. He talks about their stand in China, and then the fact that Facebook's talking about complying with the Chinese government in order to get into the Chinese market, and Microsoft is partnering with the Chinese search engine, Baidu. He says, I'd like to see Google win this war, and I know whose side I'm on here. I kind of think that leaving Facebook is one way we could participate. Now, this is a stronger statement than many of us would make, but it certainly does reflect the feeling a lot of us have about Facebook versus Google. He says, Google Plus is already showing us how it respects the user. Whereas, because they have the data liberation, makes downloading everything you've uploaded a relatively simple task. Of course, you could do that on Facebook, too. But he says, try and take your photos off Flickr, for example. It's almost impossible. What do you guys think? Is something about Google inherently more trustworthy than Facebook?
Is it because Facebook has that social network movie that kind of vilifies Mark Zuckerberg a bit, or are we waiting for like a Google
I don't think
scandal
it's
like
the
that?
movie.
I mean, the other thing about Facebook is they seem to hide a lot of things, a lot of settings. You're opted in and you find out later, and people get very, very outraged versus Google. The one time they did it was Buzz, and everybody got annoyed with that. So maybe it's just the frequency in which they opt people.
This maybe capsulizes it. This is Jim Fallows talking. He says, my view is, according to Jim Fallows, Google errs and oversteps, as in the Buzz case, and can seem threateningly large, but in the end, it acts as if it has a conscience. So far, the record is that if Facebook stops only when it's caught. I see you nodding, Gina.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is why I'm here doing this show. The Google brand has earned the trust of the tech community, and this a Harvard student has to be a nerd, right? It has to be a geek.
He's a divinity student too.
Yeah.
Well, that's a form of nerdiness.
Yeah.
It's
I
godly
I say that
nerdliness.
lovingly because my sister's a minister, but yeah.
I mean, the reality is that my in-laws didn't weigh what brand they trusted more when they decided to go on Facebook. Their friends were there, and that's what they did. But for people who are in the industry and think about these things and follow Google and see, and can comprehend the awesome technology that Google has sort of put out to the world and what they've done, and just Google's whole demeanor has always been, the do no evil thing hasn't been just talk. It feels like they've really walked the walk, and they appeal to engineers in a very captivating way. I trust Google as well, and my boss Anil often questions my blind trust of Google. He was the one that pointed out that that there were so few women on the service, and I said, oh, that the number must be wrong. Because I can't imagine that's really the case, So I tend to trust them first, which is probably a bad thing.
They're not infallible.
They're not infallible.
Far from it. That's what Fallow is saying, is that they make mistakes.
Do the right thing. I get that sense that they try to do the right thing, and everybody I've talked to who are former employees and current employees have all said the same thing, that like the conversations in the meetings are, is this evil? Will this hurt users? And I think that's easy to do when you're making a boatload of money, which they are. So yeah, I'm right there with you, and that's why I'm doing the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's well said. And one issue in Facebook's problem is I think Jim and the divinity students said it very well, that Facebook does kind of just push the edge and wait to get flapped back. But they're also dealing with things that are seen to be more personal. I think the strategic mistake for Facebook, I argue, is that they should have started by saying we're a place to share, not we're a place to hide things or to secrete things, right? That we're a place to share, but that's not how they're seen. Whereas Google, I think, is very smart as they're presenting them as a place. This is why the profiles thing is smart. This is a place to share. Generally, that's what we're here for. That's what we do, is we drive people to things. I think they are good about the don't be evil. I think the China stuff, especially Jim is a China hand, and he knows this very well, is very important to this. And I think there's something else going on too. Two sides of this. On the one hand, we also see that because, as Gina said, Google gets big, it gets mistrusted. We see that throughout the EU, but now the FTC is going after Google. And I put on the list a New York Times editorial that basically says, as Matthew Ingram summed it up, the short summary of it is, well, we should just investigate them just because they're big. And we're seeing that, and that's kind of insane. On the other hand, there's a story going on in my world right now with Rupert Murdoch and the phone hacking scandal in the UK.
Oh, my God.
That is beyond ugly and evil right now. And if you want to talk about relative trust, here's a supposed journalistic organization that is just absolutely disgusting. And here's Google that, yes, it's very big, but as Gina just said, yes, they try to super serve their customer and make that their guiding principle. And yes, I do trust them. I'm a fanboy too.
And what I like about Google too is they don't treat their users like idiots. You know, they go in and say, you're an adult, you can understand what it's like to have different lists of friends, and you'll know what the difference is between sharing, you know, to some people and not others. You know, I feel like they give consumers and users choices and control, whereas I feel like other companies kind of just assume the lowest common denominator, this is the default setting, this is what everyone should do because this is what we think that they should do.
I think the other thing is that Google's earned a lot of trust simply by having good search results. You know, when you look up something, you're looking for whatever it is you want, you actually got good results. And you're like, I like this site. This is actually giving me what I want. And so you just started going back and back and back. And even when you would see their services, other services pop up, you're more likely to go, you know what, I know this service isn't fully baked yet, but I'll give them another chance because I trust them from their search results. But I do
think that Jim raises the question, tacitly, if not explicitly, that I feel better about Google. I'm maybe not sure why, and I'm not sure I should, but I do.
Yeah.
And that certainly reflects my opinion, and maybe it's irrational. Maybe it's not. You know, there's a good. This also in our rundown. It's probably too long for me to summarize, but Yishan Wong has written a Quora answer, how Google Plus shows that Google still doesn't understand social, in which he kind of debunks some Facebook myths like that. For instance, they keep all your data themselves. You can, of course, for the last year, you've been able to export all your Facebook data in a zip file. It comes down to a feeling almost, doesn't it? Not a rational thing, but a feeling. Or is it rational?
But I think it is. I think Gina's right. It's culture. I mean, I won't besmirch them here too. But I dealt with a certain credit card company.
Oh,
yesterday.
I love that post, by the way.
And just, you know, I'm not trying to do Adele. With my heart condition, I try not to get upset.
I'm dying, and they screwed me.
But the culture was amazing. I went through 6 employees, and when I said, you know, I'm unhappy, and here's why, retain me, all they were trained to do was to upsell me.
Right.
And you know, Google, the irony of Google is if you have a problem with Google, you can't reach a human being. It's, you know, oh, if you could only get to phone mail jail.
Right.
We can because we're in the position we're in. We can go on Plus, and there's Vic Gondrotra, for God's sakes, in 2 minutes saying, you're right, Gina, I'm right on that.
That's awfully impressive, that the presence, and of course, we found out that Bradley Horowitz was about to get, you know, proposed.
Yeah.
We had him on the show last week, and apparently shortly thereafter he flew to Paris and proposed to his longtime girlfriend and was accepted. And by the way, I was thrilled to be sharing in all of that on Google+.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool. He put the picture of the ring, and she was, and was it her name? Irene was posting pictures of Paris and their food, and I felt like we were. I don't even know. I've met Bradley. I've hung out with him at food camp, but I felt like, wow,
that's really interesting. This is humanizing Googlers.
It really did.
You know, it is. Did you see in a whole different way? Did you see Marissa's Chalui light fixture in her house?
No, she posted about her light fixture.
Whoa!
And now I've got to find
the most incredible. Did you see it, Gina?
I don't see it. I'm looking at her profile now.
Yeah, let's look.
She put up photos, 83 photos. Of, how do you say it? Chalui?
You must be in her circles because
Cthulhu? Yeah, apparently she's not sharing that with us.
Oh, maybe now just violated the rules here. But
I want to see her Thalui.
You know who I mean? Who's the artistic class guy?
I know who you're talking about. I don't know how you. I don't
talking about such an uncultured
click
bunch.
The photos tab in her profile. You can see.
Oh, it's in the photos tab. Oh, there it is.
There we
her
go.
Chahuli install.
It is. You won't believe it. It is the most unbelievable thing.
Oh, they have this. This reminds me. I feel like I'm at what is the hotel in Vegas that has all of this stuff. This is very Vegas of Marissa. Holy cow!
Wow.
At least they're all the Google colors right there.
Is it? It is. Persian ceiling mock-up in Seattle. So she's thinking about getting this, obviously.
No. If you go through quickly, you will see there's the installation.
Oh, yeah, they're putting it in.
The truck gets caught.
Wow, this is very personal. You're right.
There's an Apple store in the background as you go by.
Well, now we know exactly where she lives.
Wow, this is quite an installation.
I hope they're not geotagged.
It is phenomenal. It is just unbelievable.
And congratulations, Marissa. Now you have the Bellagio ceiling in your apartment. Wow.
Leo, watch it.
Wow. This is quite incredible.
So there's a humanity here. Googlers are throwing themselves into this. I talked to Jacob Glick, who's their privacy person in Canada, and he said it's interesting. You got to find the right voice because you still are corporate, but they're in here and allowed to be human and be themselves.
Jeff, do you think this is all on purpose? I mean, like with the campaign, the Dear Sophie campaign for email, I mean, is this just this, hey, we're showing you how to use it by using it ourselves, or is this what they would normally do on a social network? I mean, is this we just never see that?
Well, there's something,
What do you think?
there's something that puzzles me a little bit. If you go to socialstatistics.com and you look at the top-ranking Googlers are there, Larry Page follows 0 people. Sergey Brin follows 0 people.
Oh, that just
Vic
means they've hidden
Good-
who they've circled.
Oh, have they hidden their circles?
Yeah, because you can say don't make the people in my
So
circles
the number's
public.
invisible. Okay.
So this is why I kind of distrust the site a little bit. It's not quite reporting the data correctly. It's not
Got it.
actually 0. It's just
Because that made me think, oh, these are phony accounts that they're
Well,
just
there were
using.
some dead accounts there, which is the other problem, but they're...
Okay, so they've blocked this for privacy reasons.
it lists me as following 0 too, but that's just because I hid who's in my circles just to
I
see
see.
what would happen, and that's what happened. So it's
I
actually
see.
not 0.
Okay. Tom Anderson's not following anybody either.
And by the way, the numbers are way out of date.
Yeah, they are out of date.
And the number on the profile doesn't match the number on the circles page. Not that I care, not that I'm scopable.
It does on mine. 11,852. Let me just see out of curiosity. I think it does on mine. Yeah, 11,852.
Mine is now
Maybe they just follow me closer than they follow you, Jeff.
7385.
Is that all?
I'm at 9194.
Ooh.
So
My, Gina,
I'm
yours is
probably
bigger
up.
than Jeff's.
oh yeah, so they've got the right number right now. So maybe they're updating more often.
All right, we're going to move on.
I know this is terrible.
I have really avoided this. In fact, I'm thinking maybe I'll set the number to 0 now because I just really this was what happened in Twitter and I fell for it big time.
Yep. Yeah, well, I think, Leo, that's the beauty of it is I rushed in to get enough people in to make this a real experience. And now I pull back, and the people I want to follow are the ones I want to follow.
Yeah.
But then, Gina, I really recommend that you go into the incoming because it's a whole different experience in the world. It's people who are interested in you. It's worth going in there, but it doesn't noise up your own stream again.
I do like how they've handled that.
And it's really nice because then I get to see a wider diversity of people and interests in incoming without having to devote myself to them.
Now, something we should point out, when Mark Zuckerberg held his awesome announcement this morning, he said a couple of interesting things. One, that this is the launching season 2011 for Facebook. This is just the beginning of a number of announcements they plan to do in the next few months. It's very clear Google's in exactly that same boat. They've already kind of telegraphed that they're going to change the name and branding of Picasa and Blogger to be something a little more generic, photos.google.com and blogs.google.com. They've got some very interesting new things, games and questions in the Google code. And we're seeing the Slide folks coming out with a ton of interesting things like prizes, pool party. This is going to be a very hot summer for social media. And you've got two the superpowers of social media here. Twitter is kind of, I have to say, really feels like Twitter's getting left in the dust at this point. Yes, President Obama had a Twitter press conference this morning, but it was, interestingly enough, Jack Dorsey who hosted that for Twitter, not Ev, not Biz, both of whom have moved on, and they're kind of restarting up Obvious, the parent corporation.
Well, we also have the FTC investigation into Twitter.
Well, but every FTC seems to be apparently investigating everybody.
Well, that's interesting, too, I think, though. It goes to the developer issue there. But,
Well, it
yeah.
does, and we talked about that last week, and you're right. I mean, I think that there are some negatives in what they're up to. Maybe that actually wasn't last week. It was on TWiT we talked about that. He also said a couple of interesting things. He confirmed the 750 million user number, which we'd heard before from journalists, but that is true. But this is what I thought he said that, to me, we need to parse a little bit. He said the last 5 to 7 years of Facebook, the metric to watch was user growth. Kind of analogous to this numbers conversation we're having here. He said for the next 5 years, the question to ask is what kind of cool stuff you're going to be able to build on the social graph. In other words, don't expect this kind of growth forever. Of course, you can't because you run out of people.
You can't. There's only so many people in the world.
But also, it's enough now. We've reached such a good critical mass, and I think you could say the same for Twitter and certainly for Google, that now it's what's really interesting is what do you build on that social graph? What innovative things do you do with that information now that you have it? And he's basically saying this is the thing to watch from Facebook going forward.
To a lot of people, Facebook is the internet. I mean, there's always been this, there's not always, there's been this rumor for a while now about Project Spartan, the idea that there are going to be mobile applications based on Facebook and using that.
By the way, we saw zero Project Spartan. There was no iPad. There was no Spotify
Launching
announcement.
season, though. Maybe we'll see it eventually.
Yeah.
But, like, this is the kind of stuff, I mean, this is what we normally use the internet for. We use that for web apps, and we use it for regular stuff. But when people want to stay on Facebook all day, I mean, it makes sense to just try to spin it because, like you were saying, Leo, they can't keep growing. It's just not possible unless everybody has two, accounts for a farm bill,
right,
which a lot of people do.
All right, I want to get this wrapped up here. Let me see if there's any other big stories that we need to cover. The Nortel patents went to Apple, not Google. I don't know if that's going to be a big deal in the long run for Android. It might be. Apple, RIM, and Microsoft now have those 6,000 patents, which means Google, which tried to get them, but didn't try very hard. They used their last bid was pi, $3.14159 billion.
Nerds, really? That was their last bid?
All three bids were mathematical constants.
No.
Oh, yeah. You didn't? Oh, yeah. Let me see if I can find it.
Oh, I missed that.
It's kind of cute.
Why?
That could have been your number, Jeff.
Yeah.
There were three numbers.
Mathematics.
It was like the Mersenne Prime. I can't remember what they were. Do you remember, chat room, what the three numbers were that Google bid? I'm going to have to find it now.
I have a student of mine who has who started a startup called Notebooks with a K, by the way, folks, who has pi tattooed around his arm.
That's cute. So the first bid was 1.902160540. Their second bid was 2.6149722128, and their third bid was 3.14159. All three, math nerds tell me, no, not Fibonacci. All three are apparently mathematical constants, although I'm having a hard time. Apparently, journalists aren't smart enough to know what the mathematical constants are. Let me see if I can.
But the BBC knows. The Guardian knows.
The Guardian knows, yeah. What does the Guardian say? I saw that article, but I can't get it to come up.
$1 billion times pi, and it wasn't the other.
Brune's constant.
Brune's constant.
Okay, and let's see what
Brune's
else we have.
constant.
And Meisel Mertens.
Meisel Mertens.
Constant. Reuters called it mystifying. Google's bids were mystifying. And it did for us. It was good thing Google. You could look it up.
Yeah, and their final bid, 3.14159, which was pi, of course, was just below the, what was it?
4.5 billion.
4.5
the
billion.
consortium. There's 6 companies that bought it, and Google's not part of that.
Not part of that consortium. Have you installed the new? You probably saw this because I accidentally showed my Gmail account. The new Gmail template, the simplified template.
No, I haven't.
I did. The preview.
I like
preview,
it.
The new look. I like it
Is
too.
this-
Although
is this-
I went with the dense. I went with the dense version because
yeah. So you get
the
more data
non-dense
in
one was
there.
a little. Yeah, to get more data on the screen. But yeah, I like it very much.
What do you guys
How do
think
I
about
go get it?
Just go into themes, actually.
It's the last theme.
Settings, themes.
And but apparently this is a precursor to something Google's going to do globally. They're going to change. It's right down
they're
here.
doing kind of a global redesign or visual refresh across all the products. I believe it's Calendar, Reader, and Gmail. They're going to kind of do this. They're going to iterate over time, slowly, across the different products. So we're going to see this kind of roll out over the next few months, and they're going to be watching for feedback and no doubt doing maybe some A/B testing or that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean the bar, the Google Plus bar, kind of showed up everywhere.
Right.
And I think that's just rolling. Those changes are rolling out. Along with, kind of a general refresh.
That Google bar isn't on the YouTube site yet, right?
No.
That
YouTube's
seems
the
like,
one place that's not kind of.
That seems like the share button would be perfect right there.
I know.
It's very odd that it's not built right in.
No, that's a good point.
There's
true.
quite a bit of autonomy. In fact, that's one of the things Vic told us, because I was really lobbying for a pool party. Pool Party's their Instagram. It's written by the folks. Remember they bought Slide? And apparently the Slide folks have a huge amount of autonomy, so much so that the Pool Party program, which is their kind of Instagram killer, uses Facebook Connect and not Google Plus at all.
Wow. Okay.
And Vic said, "Oh, I just got mine invite yesterday." so apparently, you could be senior vice president at Google and not get an invite.
They're not playing favorites. That's good.
They're not playing favorites. They're not. Spotify is in the U.S. We were thinking maybe that was going to be part of the awesome announcement. Spotify, the European music system, which has been, frankly, very popular in Europe and highly demanded in the U.S. Spotify is coming, it says, to the U.S. Any track, anytime, anywhere. It's free, but you have to sign up, and it apparently has nothing to do with Facebook, even though we'd heard that Facebook would be involved in this.
That's been coming longer than the Messiah.
I know.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Mark Zuckerberg says Spotify is so good. Demi Moore says Spotify is genius. How the hell do they know?
How does Demi know?
My theory is that it doesn't really exist.
I think it's a trick. It's the Germans are playing a trick on us.
Yes.
It's the Germans getting back for Google Street View. Yeah, we have Spotify and you don't. you are so behind the times. Any other stories? I'm trying to go through these real quickly.
No, I think you hit them.
Real-time search gone.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's the one that used Twitter, right?
Yeah, is that just because the Twitter deal is up? Is that
Twitter
the,
deal was over. Real-time search, when you did a search, you could have real-time results coming in, streaming in from Twitter. Begs the question, what the hell? Why are they using Twitter? Why aren't they using other things?
They tried to get Facebook. They could never get that deal. Bang, locked up Facebook. Twitter seemed like the obvious alternative, but now with Plus...
You think the Plus will take over?
Google has put it up somewhere. I can't find it on one of their sites, but it's on one of them. It says that they are looking to integrate Google Plus once it comes back. So real time will have Plus.
Good.
Streaming once it probably goes live for all.
I hope that's true. Let us take a break. We're going to come back quickly and get Gina Trapani's tip of the week, Jeff Jarvis's number of the week, and my tool of the week. But first, my friends, a word from the folks at Netflix. Just a quick word. Sign up today, 30 days free. If you don't have Netflix, what the hell? Get it. And now we return with our program. I mean, really? Do I need to say anything else? $7.99 a month for unlimited streaming. It's incredible. You know, I have to say, though, I am a Comcast customer in a cul-de-sac. I watch Netflix every night. Every night, everything slows down on the internet, and I think in this cul-de-sac, every house they're watching Netflix. We now know that something like 30% of all primetime traffic is Netflix streaming, and I think that Comcast, you need to give me some more bandwidth because everybody's watching Netflix.
I just watched Firefly and Serenity over the long weekend, like rewatched it.
Summer Cloud,
great
baby.
Series. So great.
Summer Cloud. It's just great. So if you don't have it, get it. And you know what? If you have it, would you do us a favor? Because we desperately need your support. If you're not going to buy a brick, just tell a friend about this free deal. 30 days free of Netflix. Netflix.com. And just make sure they go to netflix.com/twit. That's all. You could buy a brick later. Netflix.com/twit. All right. Now, I don't want to leave you out, Iyaz. But this is the part of the show where we do the tool, tip, and the number. Mm-hmm. So if you could think of something you'd like to throw in there, go ahead. But let me start with Gina Trapani.
Sure.
And her tip of the week.
Yeah, sure. This was a Google Plus tip that I just found out about. If you want, you can hide who you are, who is in your circles, and who has you in their circles. Not saying that you should, Jeff, just saying that you can, just in case. By default, it's public. But if you want to hide it and you'll show up in social statistics as having 0, you just go to your profile and hit edit. And if you click on the area where it says, in Gina circles or have Gina in circles, you can click there and you can uncheck a box that says show people in my circles or show people who have added you to your circles. Only if you want. Public is better, but kind of interesting to know that you can, if you don't want to broadcast who you're following, you can do that.
It's a good idea for those of you who wish to hide.
So you cowards, you don't want to.
You cowards.
Actually, I'm gonna turn mine back on.
Yeah,
again.
but you proved that it was doable. We saw it.
Yes. You can set it to anyone on the web can see who's in your circles, or just your circles can see who's in your circles. So there's some granularity there too, which is nice.
But they can't see what circle again.
They can't see the name of the circle.
Just that they're in your circle.
That'll be the first bad leak.
Ooh, that would be bad.
That would be bad.
You know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen. Oh, I'm in his a-hole circle.
Exactly.
Right.
Mr. Jeff Jarvis, your number of the week, sir.
A few choices here. We have Twitter is now seeking a $7 billion valuation in its next round.
200 million tweets a day.
Right, but no business model. And the other number that fascinated me that everybody knows is Microsoft congratulating Hotmail for being 15 years old.
God, that's amazing.
It
so
is, and it
old.
makes me wonder, what is the useful life of any of these services? Hotmail still exists, but
As long as they're relevant.
Relevant.
Yeah.
Relevant.
They're
And
relevant.
relevant.
They're revealing things. Actually, it is interesting because we act as if Facebook, Google, Twitter, they're going to be around forever, and it's not the case. 15 years from now, who knows?
Yeah.
MySpace
I
2
still get
take over.
MySpace
2.
By the way, Tom Anderson on Google Plus is now pointing out that MySpace had Skype in 2004 in its chat.
Oh yeah, and that news about Google Plus being in real time, Google announced it on Twitter.
Oh, just now?
No, that's where I found it. That's where the announcement's from. So everyone's using each other's services.
15 years from now, we'll all wonder what this is all about.
Can I plug one more thing?
Yes.
I'm going to be at Google HQ on Monday doing a privacy talk for Googlers at noon.
So if you're a Googler, we know many listen. 12 noon.
Oh, at Twitter.
At-
You're doing a talk for Googlers?
No, at Google. At Google.
Oh, sorry.
At
Okay.
Google. Fortunately, I don't have time to come up to
I was
Petaluma.
going to say, why don't you come up? You don't have
I
to.
wish I could. I'm going out and I'm hitting that, and then hitting Glam on Tuesday, and then going down to see Bill Gross at Idea Lab on Wednesday, and then back home.
Oh, and
So
the
I'll be
good news
back
of
in the
that
fall.
is that you will be broadcasting on Twig next week from Idea Lab, and I think we're going to have Bill Gross on, yes?
I'm trying to get him. I don't know if he's agreed yet, but I'm trying to get him, yes.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Bill
I
Gross
told him
is
we
a
were all excited.
fascinating guy who really was the first to create a startup incubator, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. Idea Lab. My tool of the week is something I've been, I'm a big fan of alternative launchers on the Android phone. And I'm a big Android user. I really am. And, and I loved it because MG Siegler on Google Plus was saying, gee, I would send you pictures if the Android app on the iPhone, if the Google Plus app on the iPhone will let me. And I had to say for the first time, you should get a real phone, MG, that iPhone. Maybe you ought to think about it. I wonder how many people are thinking about Android phones at this point. Well, one of the nice things you can do with an Android phone is you can change the launcher, which really changes the whole way the phone looks. And we've all tried a lot of different launchers. I was using Launcher Pro for a while. I know I'm a little late to the game at this. Eileen Rivera, who hosts our All About Android show, said, "What? Of course you have to use Go Launcher X. This is it's free, which is nice. In fact, the way they monetize is cool. They sell themes for $1.99 or so, and they have a lot of additional plugins. This is a very attractive, very usable launcher, and unlike a lot of launchers, doesn't seem to cause stability issues. I just think they've done a very, very nice job. So that's kind of my favorite launcher these days on Android, and one I think a lot of people would like. Like a lot of launchers, among other features you get. Now, this is Gingerbread, by the way, hacked Gingerbread on the G2X. You get a full-length bar across the bottom, but you can also have additional bars across the bottom, which means you get a lot of functionality built into there. You see my G Plus widget right there on the front page. This is one of the features I really like. You can pinch to see all of the home pages, and it's easy to add home pages and even rearrange home pages in a very Apple-like fashion. Just a few of the really nice features of this. It's absolutely free. Go Launcher X, Go Launcher EX from the Go Launcher dev team. That's my tool of the week.
Downloading now.
Yeah, I really like it. I'd like to hear what you think about it.
Yeah, definitely.
You use a Nexus 1 or a Nexus S?
A Nexus S right now, yeah, and it's naked. I'm not using a launcher right now. For a while, I was using Slide Screen, and I dabbled with Launcher Pro, but yeah, I'll check this one out.
Yeah, a lot of times I take the launchers off, but the Gingerbread launcher, while okay, is missing a few little things like that more elaborate taskbar at the bottom there that I just kind of get attached to. There are a lot of Go Launcher X widgets, too, which are pretty cool. All right, I think we're out of time. I think it's time for Tech News Today. Iyaz, don't move.
Well, I got to move over there.
No, don't let Tom have that
working
seat.
double duty.
Yeah,
Jeez.
possession is
Yeah.
9/10 of the law. You know that. You're a lawyer. Keep the seat. Don't move.
All right.
All right, Iyaz
righty.
Akhtar, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
On the
Great to
Twitter,
have
he
you on.
is at Iyaz,
Yep.
Iyaz.
That's me.
And are you, he used to do a podcast called This Old Nerd.
Yeah, just relaunched it 2 weeks ago.
Oh, good.
So it's back.
Yay. So where would we find that?
That could be at thisoldnerd.com.
Good.
Check it out there. Or just follow me on Twitter because I will tweet about it nonstop. And then when you're on Plus, it'll be there too.
Good. Yeah, you're a Plus user now?
Yes.
You are. We are all Plus users. Gina Trapani is at smarterware.org. She's also at thinkupapp.com and at Gina Trapani on Twitter.
Yes, I'll see you all in three shows.
Have
I'll be in
fun in
China.
China.
Bon voyage, or however you say
Have
it in
fun there.
Chinese. Have a
Thank
great
you.
time.
Thank you.
Peking duck, you got to have.
Okay.
Boy, there's so much. The food is so good. If you go to Xi'an, you got to have dumplings. They're famous for their dumplings.
Oh, I cannot. I am going.
So
to
is
eat
Shanghai,
your
actually.
dumplings.
Yeah, dumplings are great. Oh, I'm so
Peking duck.
jealous.
Okay. Okay.
You're gonna have a great
All right.
time.
I've got a list.
Yep.
But I'm really gonna miss you guys. I'll see you in 3 shows or 3 shows from now in the new
In the new
studio.
studio.
It's really
Yay.
awesome.
Say goodbye to the cottage.
Yeah. Aw.
And everybody out there, buy your brick. I bought one. You all buy your brick.
Thank you for the
Yeah.
plug. Bricks.twit.tv. I'll tell you, when you come and see the Wall of Honor, all the bricks we've got, we broke 1,000 bricks, so it's going to be fairly long. It's so cool to see all those messages and things. It's just really neat. And it does help us build this new studio, which ended up costing, well, I just got a quote for the curtains in my office. Curtains, $20,000.
No.
We are not going to do that. Don't worry.
How?
They're made out of iPhones. It's hard to explain.
It's like, what? No, I will hang them myself. I will make them. I will do the opposite of Scarlett O'Hara. I will take a dress and make it into curtains and hang them myself.
Who's your designer, Imelda Marcos?
Oh, yeah, pretty much. That's
Marissa?
Yeah, no, it's very Marissa. It's very easy to get very expensive on this stuff, and we're cutting. Believe me, we are being intelligent. But things happen. For instance, we were using a Blackmagic router, 40 in, 40 out, which gives us the capability of having. We have 30 cameras, and it turns out once we connected up all the cameras and the video and the Skype, it's not big enough. So that was $5,000. We now have to buy a $15,000 router. So these things add up. And
Wow.
your bricks make it possible for me to say, actually more like Lisa, our CEO, to say, no, you could do that. No, you could do that. I don't know for how long that's going to last. No, yeah, you could do that, Leah. Bricks. Okay, you could do that. Bricks.twit.tv. I promise it won't go to curtains in my office. Jeff Jarvis is in charge at buzzmachine.com. That's his great blog. It's a must-read. His new book, Public Parts, is due out next month, or September, I guess.
September.
And he's also on the Twitter at Jeff Jarvis. And his latest book is What Would Google Do? That is a great read. You should read that. Thanks, everybody, for being here. We do this show every Wednesday, about 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. That's 2000 UTC at live.twit.tv, but you can always catch it after the fact by going to twit.tv/twig for This Week in Google. And you can subscribe, get it automatically, listen every week, just like all the Googlers do. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time on Twig. Bye-bye.